Okay, I think we're getting set up. Just double checking. Yep, everything's working properly. Perfect. Okay, as usual, I'm literally 1 minute late. I just always gets logged out of our YouTube account for some reason, and that always makes me late. So sorry about that. We have a lot of work to do on this account today. So actually, I'm going to start with the usual breakdown of what we did so far. And if I remember correctly, I forget every time. So this is session 5. And so every session is about 1 hour long, and really, because I'm talking a lot and because I'm explaining what I'm doing, it actually transpires that I pretty much build, I pretty much spend maybe 40 minutes out of 1 hour actually building things. And so it's quite interesting to see how far I got with just about 4 sessions. So maybe, altogether maybe 3 hours of building a bot. And so let's just try and recap what's happened a little bit. And then for those of you who join back or who are watching this video in sequence, or these videos in a sequence, what you want to have a look at as well is the different updates we've done recently, which can be quite cool. So you probably haven't seen this new overview page, which is on it's kind of the very first page that we now have when people log into the platform, which kind of gives you a bit of information about what you could do next. So I've obviously done a lot of things, but I haven't created a team, I haven't invited anyone to this account, I haven't managed or created any custom metrics. We can do that. I haven't really reviewed the messages that we sent. We're going to do that today. We haven't connected any Facebook Messenger integration, so it's not something that we want to do. We discussed this, I think, on session 1, so I'm not going to do that. We haven't really played around with live chat, although we did set it all up last week. Yeah, we did. And then we obviously did some FAQs, so we can manage that. We'll have a look at that. I haven't invited any users, so we can have a look at that. And we haven't looked at the Facebook, the full page bot, which we're gonna have a look at today as well. So loads of stuff to go through, but let's recap a little bit what we've done. So we've been building a customer service bot, which is helping users who visit the website of this particular live event figure out some information about what it's like to attend, what kind of requirements there are, if you can bring your drinks and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of the one side of the bot that we've been building. The other side of the bot that we've been building is obviously this conversation automation, which was actually the first lesson we did now about a month back now, which is this particular one. So for this particular session, what we did was we built an entire conversation around actually purchasing a ticket to the event. And so we also spent obviously some time designing the bot. So this is the bot that we got to. And if I will just quickly go through this flow together, we can have a look at what's happening. So welcome to the Blast Premier chatbot. It makes me agree to the rules and privacy policies. And then it basically just welcomes me, and there's a nice video that we can play within the bot. I'm not going to play it because I've had some feedback from you guys saying that that's actually quite loud. And so it kind of disrupts the experience. But you can ask about events, teams, giveaways, and more. And so let's have a look at some of the FAQs we've created. As usual, when I'm looking right, I'm just looking at the screen to see and make sure that everything that I'm doing is actually being transmitted live, so don't be too worried about that. Okay, so we have some questions around where is the next event? So we have some questions around that, which it just responded. So the next event will be in London, and I remember that I did a little joke and put it in the Maldives, the next one. So that's great. So we have some questions around that. So this is pretty much what I want to do. What's interesting is this particular question basically fires a carousel, which is this kind of navigating, it's kind of a sideways navigation of multiple cards. You can have, I think, up to 5 cards up in here, which is quite nice. But the interesting part of it as well is obviously you have tickets here. And so here, I think at the moment I've only done, there we go, I actually wired that up last time. So what happened is I've wired up the conversation that I just showed you, which is this purchasing a ticket conversation, to this particular card, to this particular answer, which obviously creates this loop within the conversation, which keeps the user engaged with your bot, and you don't have to necessarily send them to an external page or anything like that. You can do all of it within the bot. And so here I clicked book your ticket, and so it's basically onboarding me into this this conversation. So it's going to basically allow me to buy a ticket for this event, which is really good. So we want to create a customer service bot, but the line between sales and customer service is often quite blurry within chatbots, because obviously a customer's question is customer service, but that question could lead to a sales, and that's obviously a sale. And so in this instance, we're asking where the next event is. Because I live quite near to London, this is quite good. I can just say, well, great, I'm going to book this ticket because that's quite nice. And so we move away from customer service and move into sales. And so let's just quickly go through this. So it's asking me if I'm older, 18 or older. I think I am. I'm not sure. You tell me. I think I am. So I'm just going to say yes. Let's do this. So which pass would you like to purchase? So again, you can have these cards that are quite helpful and really pretty. Really engaging for the users. We have all sorts of message types that you can use. You can have a read about on our website. So there's a 1-day pass, there's a 2-day pass, and there's a full pass. And obviously, I just really want to get the full pass. I think it's quite nice. Okay, so there are very few full passes left. I think I'd quite like to go to VIP, so I'm just going to put VIP. And then here, I've finished this conversation. So this is where you would have this purchase ticket, no, not ticket, message. But obviously, I'm not wiring any of this up properly. This is just an example for these for this demo, for these sessions. And so this is where you would actually have your purchase button, which I guess I can show you if I haven't yet. I don't think I have. So within the platform, you can integrate a payment processor. And at the moment, we have Global Pay available in this particular account, but we have, as you can see, 5 different other ones available as well. And so if I were to set this up properly, I would go in here and set up my merchant account into Global Pay, put all of my details in here, or all of my company's details. And then as part of the conversation, oops, going to the wrong page. As part of the conversation here, so this is the entire conversation we just went through. So you can see I went through the first step here. I went to yes. This is what happened. What would have happened if I said no? And then it's basically asking me all sorts of things. And then at the very end, it's basically giving me this purchase ticket. And so what I could do here is, at the moment, it's a message content. It's just a message, a standard message. So it's just text. But what I could do is I could turn this into a payment. And so by doing so, I can't actually I can't save this. But again, I didn't set anything up, so it's not going to do anything. So when I get to that page, if everything were to that step, if everything was set up correctly, I could just click this button. And an entire card of, enter your credit card number, enter your expiry date, etc., your personal details, all of that would be displayed within the bot and allow me to buy a VIP ticket right there and then, which is really cool. It's important to realize that we don't actually process the payments ourselves. We use an external payment processor. So obviously these payments go straight to Global Pay or Stripe or blah, blah, blah. So it's important because from a security perspective, you obviously want to know who's processing your payments, and it's important to know that it's not ubisend doing that. But yeah, I'm not going to do that because obviously I don't have anything set up here, so I'm just going to revert this back. Actually, just close this and it should be fine. Oh no, I saved it earlier. All right, VIP ticket. Okay. Great. So what are we going to do today? So I want to spend a bit of time today going back a bit to basics. So what I've done so far is a lot of building, quite fast building as well, because I'm trying to get this done. I basically want to be done next week. So I want next week to be the last the last kind of key features that I'm going to build for this chatbot, at least from an experience perspective. And so this week, what I want to do is I want to go back to some basics of trading. So we're going to look at that. I want to have a look at conversations because there's a lot that you can learn from conversations, and we didn't touch on that at all. And then I want to look through channels a little bit more. We discussed that on the very first session, but I think there's more that we can talk about, particularly in terms of a full page experience, which is something that's kind of brand new that we just released. And so I want to go through all of that. So the first thing I want to go through is training. So we spent a fair amount in one session training the bot to make it just better. And so what I want to do is I want to go back to sending some messages to the bot, see how it improved, and then do another kind of session of training just to make sure that we're making it better and better. And once I finish that, so we'll do maybe 10, 20 utterances. And then once we finish that, we're going to have a quick look at confidence scores, how all of that works, and then we'll finish with we'll finish with some best practices in terms of testing. So okay, let's have a quick look at the FAQs we have. So I've obviously only created about 6 or 7 FAQs. I don't remember exactly. My screen is very dirty. Sorry if you can hear that weird noise. Yeah, I've created 6 FAQs. And so what we've done initially was to create those around topics that I felt, these kind of chatbots might get a lot of questions around. So this is where the next event is, what kind of drinks can I bring inside the venue, or can I bring drinks inside the venue, where can I watch your events online in case there's a stream, what's the minimum age requirement to attend, if you have refund policies, and what are the next blast events. So obviously these two are somewhat related, and so that's going to be a nice tricky bit of training to do here. And so what we'll do a little bit is we're just going to send some messages and see what happens. So I'm going to agree to this. So let's do the drinks first. Okay, so food and drinks from the outside the area are not allowed. So this one is picked up properly. Great. Can I bring drinks inside? So it didn't understand this one, so this is great. So we can take this and train it later on. Another thing that people might ask in here, which obviously relates because our answer is food and drinks from outside are not available, is they're going to potentially ask if they can bring food. Can I bring food from, sorry, I'm going to do inside the venue. Didn't understand, so obviously we didn't program it to understand food, so that's fine. Can I bring food from outside? I'm going to do, okay, so it's basically now falling back to this live chat setup that we put together last week, so I'm just going to say no to that, so you can continue sending it messages. Can I bring drinks from outside? Not understanding, are outside drinks allowed? Food and drinks from outside of the arena are not allowed. So all of this is basically being taken from these 3 examples that we set up on the lesson 2 or 3, and it's basically matching in some specific way, which we'll look at in a minute, whether or not it understands it, and if it does, it sends a nice message. If it doesn't, it basically falls back to this, sorry, I did not understand. And so let's do a couple more. Let's do another FAQ maybe. What else do we have here? So we have refund policies. So I think refund policies are going to be a big one. That's quite typically the case. So let's just do, do you have a refund policy? Okay, our refund policies are very simple. Within 28 days of your ticket purchase, you're allowed to request a refund. Okay. Can I request a refund? Okay, didn't understand that. What are your refund policies? It understood that. What else is there? Tell me about your refund policies. Didn't understand that, so it's good, we can train all of that. How many days do I have to claim a refund? So this is a pretty complex one. Perfect, so you didn't understand that. Let's do a final one. What are the policies around refunding a purchase? Okay, so it hasn't understood that either. So perfect. So what we're going to do now is we're basically going to take a step back towards what we did a couple of weeks back, where we did a tiny bit of training, but clearly not enough. And so I want to have another look at this particular table, because there's a lot to understand here, and there's a lot to learn about this. So this is the training overview, which for those of you who weren't here at that session is basically a page where all of the messages that are sent to the chatbot get displayed, and you get to see quite a bit of information about them. So you get to obviously see the message that the chatbot has received. You get to see what the chatbot understood this as, and so in here we have a whole bunch of different things, so we'll have a look at that. And then we get to see this confidence score. So how confident was the bot that that it understood the message properly. And then we have some sort of timestamp that allows us to just organize the page a little bit by date and time. And then finally we can do three things. So we can either say that the chatbot was correct to understand this inquiry as whatever it understood it as. And so hitting this correct button is basically going to teach the chatbot that later on you can do, when you see this message again, just assume that it is actually refund rules. I can ignore, which basically just says don't worry about this message, it's just random. We don't care about that. So if I just send, let's say, my best friend is the best. So if I send this, obviously the bot's not going to understand this, and you can trust me when I say that people will send pretty random things to your bot. And so here, it understood it as my friend, which is a small talk intent, which we're not necessarily going to go into. And it obviously has a pretty low percentage confidence. But basically what I'm trying to show here is that we don't want to train the chatbot to understand this particular inquiry because it's not relevant to the bot, it's not relevant to what we're trying to achieve. And so what I can do is I can just hit ignore here, and the bot just not going to take a second look at it. And then the final thing I can do is I can hit explore, which is obviously the really main way to actually train the bot here. And so we'll look at that in a second. Okay, so if you look through the questions we sent, so we sent 2, 3, 9 questions. Perfect. So what's been happening? We have sent a message that is, can I bring drinks inside? And the bot understood this as bringing drinks, which is correct. That's the FAQ we wanted to test. Its confidence is somewhat low, so it's at 34% here, which is not too bad. It's just slow. What we did last week as well, if you remember, is we set up the fallback, which at the moment is at, if I remember correctly, 50%. So yeah, the fallback is at 50%, which basically means that the bot will only send an answer to the user if it is over 50% confident in its response. So in this instance here, for instance, this line here is white, which means that it actually sent an answer. And so with this particular question, are outside drinks allowed? The bot understood this as bringing drinks, and it was 81% confident in this. And so it basically just sent that message. No problem at all. But here, all of the yellow ones here are all under 50%, which means that the bot didn't respond them or send a response with them. What's quite interesting to see is that out of 9 here, we obviously have pretty much all of them have the right intent matched. So this one's about refunds, and this is what the bot understood. This one's about refund, what the bot understood. Drinks, 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 drinks. The only ones that the bot is not understanding are these somewhat more complex questions around how many days, what are the policies. I don't know, the sentences are somewhat more complex, even though obviously it's still at the 32%, which is quite high. And so what you want to do basically is, obviously you want to train your bot to understand those. And so what I can do is obviously I can say, are outside drinks allowed? Well, obviously that was correct, so I can just hit correct on that. If I go into the trained messages, is the date correct? Yes. Is it? Okay, so if I go into the train messages, you can see all of the messages that were sent to the bot that were automatically understood by the bot. And so we have all of these messages here. So you have, what are your refund policies? Understood it as 100%, so that's perfect. So this is just a place for you to have a quick look to make sure that the bot is actually also pushing people through, which is obviously quite important. So let's do another one. So just for your understanding, this is the message that I just trained, that I just said to the bot. This is correct. Keep this as high up on your list. So let's go back and see some yellow messages here. So can I bring drinks inside? Okay, so let's say and train this one. So it's at 34%. So we can have a look at the train messages. Can I bring tweaks inside? Okay, it's been now trained, or at least it's in the backlog of training. And so eventually now it should start picking this particular inquiry up. So it was at 34%. We can give this a test. Can I bring drinks inside? Food and drinks from outside in the area are not allowed. So earlier, the bot didn't understand this inquiry, or it understood it, but was very low confident at 34%. But now I just trained it, and I just sent the exact same message, and it went straight into training because it's a 100% confidence match. So what we've basically done is I took a 34% confidence and trained it once and automatically brought that up to 100%. So that's really, really important, and that's really good. And that's where you can see that now, not only is this one, these three messages here that I had at the start, which we can have a look again. So you had these three messages here at the start, which are very good, and it's a good place to start with the bot. But every time I train the bot to understand something new, it's adding more utterances here in this questions model. And so what it's doing is that it's not only learning from these three that I did at the start, it's now learning from 4, and then from 5, and then from actually 20, 30, etc. And so all of their variants that the bot could figure out from just these three are now compounded by adding a fourth and adding a fifth. So now we're basically starting to really bulk up this knowledge from the bot. So let's do a couple more, just so you can have a quick look. Well, tell me about your refund policies. So this is only this is 43%, which is quite high, but it's still below the 50%. So it is quite clearly about refund rules. So I can just hit correct on this. If I go into the view train messages, where is it? Tell me about your refund rules. Perfect. It's at 43%. We're going to give this another test. And obviously you wouldn't do that so granularly every single time. You wouldn't go back and test every single time. I'm just showing you what's happening. So now, okay, the message has been understood. I can go back into the training section. I can obviously not going to see it here because it's going to go straight to trained. There it is, 100% confidence rate. And so again, same principle as with the drinks FAQ. If I go into the FAQ now, we have the three that we set up a couple of weeks back, and then we now have this new one that the bot is going to take as well and learn from and create something cool around it. And so we can do that with all of the messages. So let's have a quick look. Is this correct? Refund, yep. Drinks from outside, drinks. Okay, great. So what I can do to speed up the process, and this is one of the best practices that you want to get into, is you can select multiple utterances and train them all at once. So I can tick all of them and I can hit correct or ignore or clear this selection. And this is kind of bridging the gap between showing how this feature works and giving you some best practices for this feature. So I'd say there's 3 best practices for training your bot. The first is upfront training. So you want to spend as much time as possible training your bot early on. So as you can see, this particular bot only has 6 FAQs, and all things considered, it knows quite a lot already, but there's so much more that I could teach it by just spending 5 minutes on each FAQ and thinking, okay, how would I phrase this question if I wasn't part of the team here? What would I ask? What do my customers tend to ask? And so as you build the bot for yourself or for your team or for a client, what you want to do is put yourself in the shoes of the people using the bot. And so I would typically say that once you have a bot that's up and running and running smoothly, you would basically spend maybe a couple of hours, 4 hours maybe, training your bot every month. Once a month, about 4 hours maybe, so you do like an hour every week, more or less. But to get to that point, you need to do a bit of upfront work. A chatbot's a bit like a baby. You want to teach it to get to a certain stage before you can actually start to let it go and kind of let it learn by itself. And the more you upfront this work, the better your bot will be really quickly, and the better it will be in the long term. And so there are a few stages to this which I would recommend. Stage 1 would be testing yourself, the way that I've just been doing now. Very, very important. You'll have to think, as you create the FAQs, you'll have to think of these 3, but like the 3 starting points here. So that's not too bad. But as you create all of these FAQs and you keep thinking of these 3 versions, you'll quickly think that you're running out of ways to ask these questions. But really, you'll see that you may have thought maybe 10-15% the ways that actual users will talk to you about the way they'll actually ask questions. And so phase 1, testing by yourself, very, very important. Phase 2, I would say internal testing again, but broaden your horizon. So if you are part of a team, let's say an HR department, and you have the process or the project of building this HR chatbot, you might want to involve now, well, now that you're quite confident in the training that you've done, you might want to involve your colleagues and just say, look, have a look at what I've built. This chatbot can do X, so it can help you submit expenses and answer questions about our HR policies. Why don't you give it a try and just ask it a few questions? And so obviously you kind of want to do this user testing type of approach of taking loads of notes, figuring out what people are asking the bot, how people are using the bot. This second phase of testing, incredibly important, because you will still be talking to people who are part of your team, and you'll still be catching all of these kind of low-hanging fruit. The last phase of testing, I would say, or previous to last phase of testing, is putting actual users through the bot. I would say that for most really, really big projects that we've worked on at ubisend, we would involve customers in a staged approach as well. So you might not want to go that far down the rabbit hole and bog yourself down with loads and loads of processes. But if you work at a big company, or if you serve many, many customers, that might be something that you want to do as well. And so typically what you would do is you would release the bot and put it on, let's say, your website or your Facebook page, and see what happens for a couple of weeks and monitor it really, really closely. If you went down the route of the staged release approach, which is very valuable, if you have a big team, or if you have a big company, or the project is quite meaty, what I would do is what we tend to do is release it with a test group of maybe 50 users, and then 200 users, and then finally everyone. And so you want to stage that into 3-4 weeks tests as well. And this is really the safe way to do it, which is correct, but it obviously takes time. And so if you're just building a small bot for a relatively small company, you might not want to go down that route. It's quite complex. And so with this 3-phase approach, we should be in a good position to actually have a really, really well-trained bot. And this is where you can kind of crank gear number 4 and and just kind of cruise to the 1 hour or so a week of training your bot, just kind of keeping an eye on it and making sure, okay, did I think of this question, or is this question coming up quite a lot? And so we'll have a look at that as well. So training up front, super important. Second thing that you want to do is you want to create really, really specific naming conventions for your FAQs. As you've seen, I've gone through this, and I haven't actually done these ones, but these 2 questions here weren't understood as anything that's relevant here. We actually have a question around refunds. So what I want to do is I want to explore this and actually tie this to this refund rules. And so I can update that. So this is good. So now I've just trained that. But now if you imagine that this bot was the average bot on the ubisend platform, so 100 to 150 FAQs. If I hit this explore button and I have 150 FAQs here, this is going to take me some time to find the right one. And so what you want to do is early on you want to plan your naming convention so that you can train really, really quickly and efficiently. It's no use creating let's say creating a category here for FAQs that's just called refund, because that's not that helpful. Is it asking for a refund? Is it refund rules? Is it refunds in UK, refunds in Belgium? What's the breakdown here? And so you want to be quite specific. Even here, this one, bringing drinks, is not super helpful. I think I've made a mistake calling it that. It would be bringing drinks or bringing outside food or something like that inside, or bringing outside drinks and something like that, something more specific. And so by doing this early on, you're going to save yourself so much time later on. Because what you want to avoid is having this one sort of catch-all type of FAQ that you keep adding utterances to, because you don't really know if it's that the right one or not. And so you want to really follow a very specific process for that. And then finally, the last kind of best practice I would give you is allocate some time every week to train your bot once you're in that gear 4, to make sure that you stay on top of it. It's quite frequent that I will log into a some client is asking me for help, and I'll log into their account, and they have 150 pages of training left untouched here, and that's just not ideal. So you want to try and stay on top of it, because things can get out of hands, and if you don't train it regularly, you're missing out on a lot of automation, because people will bypass it. If your bot is not good enough, they'll just bypass it and contact your customer service team anyway, and so you're not really saving anything. And then so train it a lot, make use of the features here. So we have a feature that would allow you to do like all of these ones, train them perfect, so I can hit that, and now I'm pretty much done. This one still needs to be tied, so this is refund, so I'm going to go and find the refund rules policy, update that. Perfect, all trained, good job, I'm done. I'm at the end of this particular training session, so that's good. So I wanted to really go back to this because it's important to have a look at training, really important part of any chatbot building. And hopefully these best practices kind of show you where you want to go with this. The next thing I wanted to do today with this particular bot is I want to have a look at the conversations. So I'm just going to reset this so you have the latest one. Okay, so conversations is basically it's a place where you can actually have a look at all of the conversations that your subscriber are having with your bot. So what's quite interesting is that obviously we have all this list of conversations here. All of them happened 12 days ago, about 2 weeks ago, and there's probably a few reasons for this. One of the reasons is I sent some messages to I sent a link to some people who were attending the session last time or 2 weeks back, and what probably happened is they opened the bot and on the 11th here and started talking to the bot, and so you'd have the conversations here. Now I'm not going to open these because this is the internet and who knows what's going to happen here. I sent it to literally publicly on the YouTube page whilst I was live, and so you never really know. So I'm not going to open these, but what I can do is I can open the view demo conversations, which I hit, and the demo conversations are obviously the conversations that I'm having, that you've just seen I was having with the bot. So if I click this open, I can see, okay, this is just the FAQ I just did. So basically what this allows me to do is I can have actually a deep dive look into each and every single conversation that my chatbot has had. So this one is 23rd, that's today as well. So what happened here? 23 messages. Okay, so this is when I started doing some testing. So that's actually an interesting conversation to have a look at. So you have to put yourself in the mind of this is an actual real conversation and not a demo conversation. And so what you could do is you could log into your platform and just have a quick look and say, okay, this person landed here. What happened? So the first thing you want to notice is number of messages sent. That's really high. 15 messages is really high. And so this should kind of jump out to you as an outlier straight away. I have about 7 pages of those here, so it's still interesting to have a look. So all of them are about 1 to 3 messages, so 15 is quite long. So surely there must be something that went wrong with this particular user. And so I can go back and I can look at the entire conversation history here. Manuel, can I be an implementer as an individual or do I need to be a team? Yep, so you can implement chatbots for anyone as a solo implementer. You don't need to be a team. I've been building this bot by myself here, no one's been helping me, and we have actually quite a lot of partners or users that just use the platform by themselves. They're just kind of consultants, and in the same way that you would build a website by yourself or something like that, you could actually use this platform. If you want to become a partner, and as in you want to use this platform to sell your chatbot services to people and build chatbots for companies, you will have to sign a partnership agreement with our company, which typically obviously requires you to be an incorporated individual. So you want to have your own company for that. But yeah, absolutely, you don't need a team to build bots. You can build anything you'd like. And then if you want to start from that, what I can send you is I can send you the page on the website. So if you go into partners.ubisend.com, you'll see that we have a partnership program here, and you can click apply now and fill out this form here at the bottom, and someone there will be in touch. Hopefully that helps. So yeah, so you have a conversation that's full of messages, and so you probably want to dig into that. And so I can go through and see, okay, they went through the onboarding thing, they asked if I can bring venue, yep. And then it kept asking the same question. So obviously that's me testing. So it's not super helpful, but it's quite helpful to have a look at this and see, okay, this was their first message. They keep rephrasing this, so and it's still not working, and they keep rephrasing it, they're still not working. So clearly there's some work I need to do here. And so they don't want to speak to a live chat agent, so that's interesting as well. Why wouldn't they want to speak to a live chat agent? Maybe we shouldn't have live chat activated. Who knows? Then they keep asking the same questions. It doesn't work. Oh, this one worked. Okay. Finally, they moved on from that. Asking about refund, etc. So basically, my point here is that you want to go through these conversations that seem like outliers and figure out if there's something you can learn about your users. So the really cool part of chatbots, one of the really cool aspects of chatbots that I talk about all the time is that you can actually get qualitative data on your user base. Sure, it's great to see an X number of messages and nice metrics and things like that. But the real cool aspect of chatbots as well is that you get a direct connection into your user's brain when you can read this and put this chat transcript. And because all the chat transcripts are available here, you definitely don't want to miss out on this information. So every now and then, when you do some training, go and log into the conversations tab and go and have a look, because that's really, really valuable. So what else is there? Oh, one cool thing as well, which is always valuable, is sorry, I went to the wrong tab. Which is always valuable is that you can actually export all of this as well. So I could just export every single conversation. Each of these conversations is basically one specific user, and they bundled all of the interactions they've had with my chatbots. And so that could be quite interesting to basically export these informations and send it to your support team to have a look at as a training exercise. Or you could delete all of them and just wipe out your platform of all of the personal data that these people might have sent. So if someone says, I want all my data deleted from your platform, this is where you'd do it. You'd find the user, delete their account. So all of this is obviously very valuable as well. Okay, so we've gone through training again, which I know was a request from some of the viewers. They wanted to go through this again, see how the confidence score works and how it increases, etc. And then we've gone through the conversations. Conversations here, having a look at this, is kind of a preamble to what we're going to do next week, which is metrics and dashboards and things like that, which is always quite fun. But yeah, I wanted to go through the qualitative aspect of the chatbot, and having a look at conversation histories is basically the best way to do that. So hopefully that was helpful. Let's go through. We have 20 minutes left. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that we have some time to look at channels a little bit. So let's have a look at that. So at the moment we have I've quite a few channels available here. So we have the Converse widget, which is this little widget that we've just seen here. So this would live like the ubisend widget lives on the ubisend website. So in the bottom right here, it's going to appear in a second once my computer loads. So here it is. So it's in the bottom right of the screen. I can bring it up like that. Very nice, very helpful. It's pretty much there every single page that I visit. So if I move to another page, it's going to appear again. My computer is just being very slow to load. So it's appearing again. So it's basically following you around the website, which is good. It's kind of this little assistant. And then what else do we have? So we have an embedded bot. So we could actually use this as well. This would allow me to basically put this entire bot in an iframe and put it anywhere on the website. Can I actually show you how that would look? I'm going to hack this around a little bit, but just because it's quite fun to have a look at. Probably shouldn't do that, should I? Should I do this? Yeah. Let's just have a little play. So I'm just going to edit this, and then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to do this, and here we go. So now basically I have my bot here in this particular side of the page. So now obviously this is very ugly because I didn't optimize it at all. But you can see that you could have this bot and next to let's say a product description or a job ad or something like that. and people could just basically just go and interact with your bot straight away from here. So obviously this isn't real, so I'm just going to refresh the page and you can see that it's just gone. So that's quite cool. We could do that. The other thing that we just released, and that's what I really want to touch on, is the full page bot. So full page bots have always been something that we've done with ubisend. They've always been quite popular for quite a few reasons. The main reason that the full page bot is really popular is they take the entire real estate of the screen, which keeps users really engaged in the conversation they're having with the bot. So it's not about being here and seeing this bot here, and then there's a button here, and then there's a bit of text here to read, and then there's nice flashy images, and then it's distracting everywhere. And so a full page bot, on the contrary, is kind of this entire immersive experience of just talking to the bot. So if you want to have a bot that helps you generate leads, at least throughout that interaction, your bot is not distracted by anything. Your users are not distracted by anything else. They just focus on the bot. So that could be for a sales interaction or something like that, or any type of interactions where you really want to keep the user engaged as much as possible and you don't want them to move on. But what we've done recently is we've actually released a brand new way of hosting this bot, and it just looks a lot different. So if I just clicked into the full page bot here, and if you already have a ubisend account, you already know about this. But what I basically want to go and have a look at is this whole full page bot here, and see if we could use this for this particular use case that we're having. So this is now the full page bot. So this is the bot that I've just created, or we've been creating for the last couple of weeks. So this is this is the widget part of it, which is in this nice blue with the logo and everything. You can see before we start, we must agree to GDPR policies, etc. And here, this is the full page bot. So as I've said earlier, no distractions. You're completely out of the website. All you have to do is just talk to the bot. And so as you can see, the message here is exactly the same. I've basically the only thing I've done is activated that channel. And so now I can actually also use this bot both on Converse, which is this little widget, or I can put it on a full page. It's going to be exactly the same interaction, but just on slightly different formats. And so here, I'm going to agree to the policies. The bot's going to load a little bit. It's going to give me a nice welcome, which is obviously, again, same interaction as here. So I'm going to agree. Great, welcome to the Blast Premier chatbot. And so welcome, I can move to the next message. This has this nice video here. Again, I'm not going to play it because it's just going to be very loud. But this kind of thing comes back. I can go back, it closes it again. And then here I can just ask, can I bring drinks from outside? Food and drinks from outside in the area are not allowed. And so you can basically use this entire chatbot the exact same way that you would use this specific one, but just in this full page interaction, which is incredible. So what you want to think about with this is almost a product in and of itself. That's the way that partners think about it, and I particularly deal with partners myself. And so this is how they think about it. They think about this entire interaction. It's basically an app in and of itself. It keeps the user engaged. It's absolutely beautiful. So it has all of these nice buttons and everything that you can use. And you can just use this bot. It's pretty much incredible. So what we're going to have a quick look at is making it, designing it a little bit. So obviously, this is not what I wanted to do. So, okay, so there's a few things here that we could do. As you can see, we can change the colors and make something super ugly like this, which is absolutely destroying my eyes. So you basically have a gradient that's just going to do some sort of different gradients elsewhere. And so what I want to do is I want to grab, because I think we could use this as a channel for our pretend bot. And so what I want to do is I want to grab this blue color, which I think is this one. And I want to put that and create a full page bot that has these nice blue colors. So I could make it I could make it like this, which would be fully blue, which is quite nice. It's very on brand. If we go back to Blast, it's very on brand. That's pretty much what they do here. I think I do like the gradient though, so I'm gonna see if we can have play around with the other off blue. This blue is I completely made up if you were there on that day. But see, they have this like light to dark, which is quite cool. I think I want to kind of capture that in my full page bot. So let's try that. So let's edit the colors, gradient end. Okay, this looks good. This is really cool. All right, let's refresh that. Ooh, very nice. Okay, so I can reset this. Let's reset and see and have a quick look. Okay, this looks pretty. The buttons are perfect, so that's great. I can absolutely just put this on my website. So if you were here on this is the Blast website. So you could have, you know, all giveaway, blah 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 blah, shops team help or something like that. And then if you click help, you just go straight to this page. You wouldn't even know that you've gone to a different page here. Even obviously they would actually host this page on their website, but you could actually just link them to this page and you wouldn't even know that you're on a completely different page. And this looks absolutely on brand. It's perfect. And you could just interact with this full page bot, which is quite cool. Another thing I want to have a look at is logos. So I have a logo here, which is just a broken one because I haven't put anything in here. So I'm just going to add a logo here, see what that looks like. Oh, very nice. Okay, let's refresh this. Okay, so now we have the logo here. Perfect. So this is really nice. And basically there we have it. We have a full page bot now that's completely available. And now I kind of want to take a few learning points from this. The first is that obviously this new full page bot is quite incredible. And if this is something that you'd like to have, then obviously just go ask us about it and inquire with our team, and we'll be more than happy to show it to you. The second thing is this whole immersive experience, very important to me. I think this is one of the flaws of widget bots in general, is that they are quite secondary. They're very helpful if you have something that you want to ask and the user is actively looking for this. But if you want to try and have a more engaged conversation with your users, I feel like these are getting a bit left to the side. They are not as people kind of forget about them a little bit, and that's quite sad when you've been spending quite a lot of time building your bot. And so you can do all sorts of things like the CTA call to action here, or make the design pop a little bit more and things like that. But I think that this full page experience is kind of taking all of this to a very different level, and that's really cool. The last thing I wanted to say about this is, and that's very important, is you can actually activate multiple channels within the ubisend platform for one bot. So this is obviously all one bot. All of the conversations, all the FAQs, all of the messages that are sent and received are all through one bot. I'm not creating a new bot for the full page, a new bot for Converse, a new bot for Facebook Messenger, although I could. That would obviously not be very efficient. And so instead what I'm doing is I'm just activating various channels, and automatically they just appear and are available straight away. And so in here all I had to do was just activate this full page thing. I can now deactivate it again, and it's just gonna be deactivated. But obviously I want to keep this for this particular account. And so like we discussed before, maybe I'll want to have Blast have a really big presence in Telegram, and so maybe you want to activate a Telegram bot or something like that. And all of that is absolutely possible. And so yeah, I think this is kind of where I wanted to get to at the end of this session, which I realize is a tad bit shorter than usual, but I think we covered a lot. So let's recap what we talked about. So the first thing we did was have another look at training. Training, super important. You want to front load your training as much as possible. You want to spend a lot of time talking to your own bot. That makes sense. Sounds a bit schizophrenic, but that's what you want to do initially. You want to make sure that you expand your chatbot's knowledge really early on, because the bigger the base of knowledge that it has, the better it's just going to perform over time. And so you want to be customer-led from this perspective, but you also want to front load as much as possible because you know your customers or your chatbot users better than anyone, and so you want to spend a lot of time in this page here. So my recommendation: create an FAQ, test it, create an FAQ, test it, create an FAQ, test it. finalize all the main FAQs you want to have, and then go through and have a big testing session again by yourself, and then send it across to your colleagues or people who you know this industry as well, or whatever you're trying to build. Explain to them the purpose of the bot, but don't give them any very specific pointers like ask this specific question, but just say like you can ask it about the events that we're going to have, and so let people just run wild with it. And from that experience, you'll learn two things. You'll learn that you haven't thought of all the crazy ways that you could actually train your bot, or that you could actually ask the questions you thought of. And then you can also figure out all of the things that you forgot to train your bot about. So people will ask new questions like, what's the temperature in the venue, or something like that. I don't know, I'm making this up. But there might be things that people will think about that you haven't thought of. And so you'll go back to the drawing board and recreate FAQs and tweak your content, etc., etc. So this is very important. And then phase 3, send it to your customers or your ideal users and gather the same amount of feedback. Throughout these testing sessions, and even once the bot is live, the second thing we looked at today is the conversations. So go through the conversations, kind of figure out what the outliers are. If you have loads of conversations that are just one message, what's happening here? Why are they only sending one message? Are they just asking a question, getting an answer, and then leaving? Perfect. Are they sending a question, not receiving anything, and just giving up? Not good. Why are some conversations like 37 messages long? What's happening there? Is that user being stuck on the loop? Is something going wrong? From these conversations, you also get a lot of insights onto what kind of processes you can put in place. And so if you see someone asking, can I get a refund? And then they get an answer about the 28 days refund policy. And then they say, okay, but how do I get a refund? And then there's no answer to that. You can say, okay, this is actually a good place to actually create a process around this, where we're going to ask for their phone number, their email address, their phone number, their ticket purchase, or something like that. And so you can set up all of that. You can also monitor people who actually fall back to live chat and see if your live chat team is doing well. This is actually very important as well if you're managing a team that's going to use this platform. That was the second thing we looked at. The third thing we looked at is this new 4-page bot, which I was kind of really excited to show you, I'll be honest. And we looked at activating a new channel within the ubisend platform and how simple it is to do this. You don't need anything really crazy. If I wanted to activate Facebook Messenger here, all I need to do is click this connect button and tie a Facebook page to this chatbot, and I'd be done with it. So all of that, we try to make it as easy as possible for you to do this. And so we activated this 4-page bot, and we had a quick look here at how to design it. We had a little play around with the different colors and the gradients. We had a play around with the logo. We had a quick check to make sure that these two pages actually look quite similar, and to make sure that the user experience from going from one to the next is actually quite good, which it is. So all of this, incredible. So what I want to do next week is I want to spend some time on dashboards and metrics. It's probably going to be our last lesson on this particular bot, and I'll pick up something else for the sessions after that if I decide to continue these live sessions. But yeah, we're going to look at metrics. We want to try and capture the usage and whether or not our chatbot is performing well. And we want to organize all of this into a nice, useful dashboard that will be useful for myself, but also useful for my team, useful for my manager, useful for my employees, useful for my customers if I'm doing this for a customer or for a client. And so we'll look at all of that next week. So thank you for attending. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any more questions about actually seeing the platform or potentially getting access to it, just go onto ubisend.com and hit this get a demo link here. You can fill out this form and someone will be in touch. Or if you'd like to be a partner, like I mentioned earlier, you can go to partners.ubisend.com, fill out this form here at the bottom, and again, someone will be in touch. Thanks everyone.